Hi everyone, I'm Shalini Rajagopal, metric number 288077. Today I'm going to talk about the background of the case study. The case involves a local facility extended by the plaintiffs, Bank Pembangunan Malaysia Berhad, to the first defendant, Ibu Kota Realty Sdn Berhad, and the loan facility was secured by the first legal charge over the property. The second defendant, Lok Chia Hong, provided a guarantee to the loan facility. The bank claimed that the borrower had defaulted on the loan and sought to recover the outstanding amount owed. The borrower disputed the bank's claim and argued that there were tribal issues that needed to be resolved at trial. The bank applied for summary judgment, which is a procedure that allows a party to obtain judgment without a full trial, on the basis that the case was plain and obviously one that did not require a trial. The court considered the evidence presented by both parties, including the security documents and the guarantee documents, and concluded that the case was indeed a plain and obvious that did not require a trial. The court found that the bank was entitled to summary judgment and ordered the borrower to pay outstanding amount owed. The borrower had obtained a term loan of 5 million and a revolving credit facility of 10 million from the bank. The borrower had also provided a corporate guarantee from the related company as well as personal guarantee from one of its director to secure the facility. The borrower had failed to make the payment and the bank had subsequently issued a notice demand under the National Land Court to enforce the first legal charge over the land. Thank you.
Hi and very good morning to doctor. My name is Vaideshwari Krishna Kumar. My metric number is 289536. There is several issues raised by the defendant. The first issue raised by the defendant revolved around the plaintiff's alleged failure to demonstrate the principles, calculation methods and effective cost of rate in the notice sent to the borrower. However, the court deemed this argument irrelevant and ineffective since those notices were intended for the borrower, not the defendants. The court emphasized that the notice clearly specified the principal sum, interest, late payment interest, and the charges. Furthermore, the ECOF rate had been previously communicated to the borrower in a separate letter. The court concluded that the defendant were stopped from refuting the claim amount and failure to present evidence to depute the outstanding sum stated in the plaintiff's statement of the account. The second issue raised by the defendant pertains to the lack of information about the changes to the effective cost of rate. They noted an inconsistency between the rate communicated to the borrower and the rate being claimed in the current suit. However, it was revealed that the plaintiff had already notified the borrower about the change in the effective cost of rate through a previous notice. The court determined the defendant cannot challenge the terms and conditions agreed upon between the plaintiff and the borrower, as they are not privy to those agreements. Moving on the third issue, the defendant argued for the apportionment of liability. They believe that their liability should be shared with other security held by the plaintiff. Nevertheless, the court clarified that the defendant liability was agreed upon as a principal debtor rather than mere securities. Consequently, the question of liability apportionment based on other security did not arise. Moving on the third issue, the defendant argued for the apportionment of liability. They believe that their liability should be shared with other security held by the plaintiff. Nevertheless, the court clarified that the defendant liability was agreed upon as a fourth issue raised by the defendant is abandonment. Initially, they raised concern about liability apportionment in their affidavit, but later abandoned these issues in their written submission. During the hearing, the defendant counsel confirmed the abandonment. Despite this, the court addressed these points for the completeness. The court explained that the guarantee executed by the defendant explicitly stated that they were in addition to, not in substitution of, any other rights or securities held by the plaintiff. The plaintiff was under no obligation to enforce other securities before enforcing the guarantees provided by the defendant. In summary, the defendant raised various issues concerning the claim amount by the plaintiff. While they do not dispute their liability as guarantor, they argue that the amount is incorrect and excessive. That's all from me. Thank you.
Good day, doctor. My name is Liang Hui, Novometric 278094. Now I will discuss about question 3. Does the plaintiff have the right to enforce the guarantee provided by defendants due to the loan facility being in default? According to Section 81 of the Contracts Act 1950, a guarantor can be held responsible for the obligations of the main debtor based on the terms of the agreement. The plaintiff, as the lender, has the right to enforce the guarantee provided by the defendants when a loan facility is in default. In this case, both the plaintiff and defendants had read and signed the agreement prior to the loan facility being released. The defendants, acting as both the borrower and guarantor, acknowledged and accepted the terms and conditions outlined in the agreement. They agreed to assume responsibility for the loan facility and repay it in the event of default by the borrower. Furthermore, the plaintiff's legal action to enforce the guarantee was supported by several factors. Firstly, the plaintiff's solicitors issued a notice of demand explicitly demanding payment from the defendants, which served as a formal communication of their obligation as plaintiff. However, the defendants did not dispute or challenge this notice. Additionally, a notice of termination and demand for the outstanding sum was issued to the borrower. A similar demand was made to the defendants as guarantor, and again, they did not dispute or challenge it. The lack of dispute or challenge from the defendants regarding the notice of demand and termination strengthens the plaintiff's position. It indicates the defendants' acceptance of their liability as guarantor and their responsibility to repay the outstanding sum. As a result, based on the agreement signed by both parties and the subsequent legal action taken, it is evident that the plaintiff have the right to enforce the guarantee provided by the defendants due to the default on the loan facility. That's all from me. Thank you.
Good day, doctor. My name is Kenny Tan Sing Hang with metric number 279181 is going to present about question 4, which is, do the defendants have the right to contain the plaintiff when the plaintiff failed to inform the defendants on the changes of rate, which they claim that the changes were outside of their knowledge and consent? Give your opinion. First of all, I will start with the notice sent to the borrower, which is the legal obligations. The plaintiff sent a notice of demand and notice of termination to the borrower, not the defendants. The law does not require the plaintiff to include details of the ECOF rate or its calculations in the notices sent to the borrower. Then I'll continue with the guarantee agreements, which is the obligations and conditions. The defendants, as guarantors, are bound by the terms and conditions of the guarantee agreements, regardless of any changes made to the loan agreement or the ECOF rate. The guarantee agreements provide for the defendants' obligations and cannot be altered without their consent. Next, I'll continue with the defendant's claim, which is lack of foundation. In this part, I'll divide it into 3 parts. First part, the defendant's allegation. The defendants were not made aware of the adjustments to the ECOF rate. Then, the second part, the legal response. The defendant's obligation as guarantors is not affected by any changes to the ECOF rate or the loan agreement. Furthermore, a letter informed the borrower of the initial modification to the ECOF rate. So in conclusion, the defendants lack a legal basis for opposing the plaintiff's claims. While the plaintiff's claim is the legal basis, given the legal and factual analysis of the defendant's arguments and the plaintiff's obligation, it can be concluded that the plaintiff's claims have a sound legal basis. To sum up question 4, there are 4 main points. First, the key finding. The defendants lack a legal basis for opposing the plaintiff's claims. The second point, the legal principles. The prompt protest and good faith principles establish legal precedents against the defendant's arguments. The third point, guarantee agreements. The guarantee agreements provide for the defendant's obligations and conditions and cannot be altered without their consent. While the last part, conclusion. Given the legal and factual analysis of the case, the plaintiff's claims have a sound legal basis. So that's all from me. I'll pass it to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Bifong and my matrix number is 277450. Today, I will explain the types of guarantees for Defendant 1 and Defendant 2 and their liability as principal debtors. Defendant 1, Ibu Kota Realty Sendirian Berhad has executed a corporate guarantee. A corporate guarantee refers to a legally binding agreement in which a company assumes the responsibility for the financial obligations or debt of another party, typically a subsidiary or affiliate company. In this case, Defendant 1, as the parent company of the borrower, serve as a guarantor for the loan. If the borrower fails to repay the loan, Defendant 1 is liable for repaying it. On the other hand, Defendant 2 provided a personal guarantee. This means that as an individual, Law Chia Hong promised to personally repay the loan if the borrower, Ibu Kota Ductile Iron Pipe Industry, was unable to do so. This personal guarantee holds Defendant 2 personally liable for the outstanding debt, and the lender has recourse to their personal assets to recover the amount owed. Both guarantees in this case are considered joint and several guarantees. This means that each guarantor is individually and collectively responsible for the full repayment of the loan if the borrower defaults. The lender has the flexibility to pursue either the corporate guarantor or the personal guarantor or both to recover the outstanding amount. Both guarantees also contain indemnities. An indemnity is a form of primary liability where a third party agrees to take responsibility for a debtor's liability. The indemnifiers bears primary liability even if the debt is not enforceable against the principal debtor. In this case, the defendant's liability is that of principal debtors, meaning they accept accountability for repaying the loan as if they were the primary borrowers. As principal debtors, Defendant 1 and 2 are legally obligated to fulfill the debt and meet the obligations under the loan facilities. Their liability remains intact regardless of any variations or amendments to the loan terms. They cannot escape their obligations due to changes in interest rates or other factors. Their liability as principal debtors are not contingent upon the enforcement of other securities or guarantees held by the bank. In conclusion, Defendant 1 and Defendant 2 are both liable to pay the plaintiff the outstanding amount of the loan along with interest and costs. That's all from our group. Thank you.